there is this sense in the spiritual community that when they're putting stuff together, they're waiting for the little stamp of approval on their forehead from the universe saying, yes, this is where you're supposed to go, right? And the problem with that is that it's completely abdicating your power to the universe. And the universe is not your parent, it's your partner. And so you have to look at the universe and say, this is what I'm doing, and this is how it's going to work. And this is your part. Please go do it.
All right, welcome everybody to Spirituality. If you are new here, my name is Kat, and I'm a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. Welcome. If you're returning, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. I am excited to be joined today by Kelle Sparta, who is a spiritual business coach and the host of the Spirit Sherpa podcast. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'm excited to jump into it.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and I think it's such a powerful thing to be a spiritual business coach. How did you get into doing that as a purpose?
Well, so there are two things that I've been super interested in my entire life, super involved in. And one is spirituality and personal growth, and the other is business. I helped my mom start her first business when I was 13. And at 19, I was helping a friend get her business off the ground, and she disappeared, and I ended up running it by myself and going, oh crap, I have to figure out how to do this. And so, business has just been everywhere in my life. I've been running businesses for forever. And, I've been studying it for as long, basically my entire adult life and a little bit before, right? So, I just am passionate about it. So my mother was this spiritual woo-woo girl, and my dad was a CPA. So there you go.
Yeah. So kind of grew up in it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really powerful thing to be doing, because I think for, at least in my case, and I know for a lot of people I've talked to, the spiritual path often leads us to feeling uncomfortable in the regular 9-to-5 gig or in the corporate structure. A lot of people who follow a spiritual path want to find some way to make their purpose a business, to make their purpose viable, like a viable living.
Yeah. Well, and this is the other reason why I've been doing this, because I've done business consulting for years, but this market is my passion market. Mm-hmm. Because quite frankly, spiritual people are tech phobic and structure phobic in a lot of cases. And so when you put that together, it makes it very hard for them to make a living if they don't have help, right?
Absolutely.
And oftentimes, even worse, what they do is so esoteric that they struggle to put language to it. And so, that's where I can really be helpful, because I am fully woo. And so I can just tap into what they're saying and then bring that into language that can then be translated to someone as to why they would want to pay for this, right? So yeah, because a lot of them are like, oh, well, it's different for every person. And I did that a lot in the beginning too, because it is different for every person. Mm-hmm. But there is an actual outcome. And so, you just need to get in and massage that outcome out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and figure out how to put it in marketable terms. I often find some of the the resistance point, at least for me, is the feeling like it's a little bit conflicty for me, because I don't want to create anxiety copy, right? I don't want to make you feel anxious, like you need to immediately click on things. Feels like there's the modern landscape of capitalism is a little bit out of alignment with how I feel like things should be done.
Way out of alignment. So out of alignment. Okay. And so I'm gonna let you off the hook with that right now. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. So I tried doing that kind of marketing when I first came into the business 20 some years ago, and it doesn't work in this market. Okay. In the spiritual market, you cannot do an anxiety-based sell. You have to do an aspirational-based sell.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only exception to that is if somebody is under attack spiritually, right? That's really the only anxiety-based thing there is. And that is more of a, hey, I can help you sell than a holy crap, right? So yeah, it's not about, we don't sell the pain. Our people are well aware of their pain. They are living in it every single day. They're intimately connected to it. They know what it is. They don't need our help remembering it. They just need somebody to tell them that they know the way out, right? And
Yeah.
so, and then to tell them what there is that isn't this, because that's the other piece, is that our people are stuck in a place of anxiety and worry and dread and self-doubt and inner and outer judgments, and they're just constantly beating up on themselves and putting themselves bottom of their own priority list and all the stuff, right? They're perfectionists and control freaks. They have a plan and a backup plan and a backup plan for their backup plan. Right?
Yeah.
They don't breathe. And so they can't conceive of what the other side looks like to even use the law of attraction and manifest it, because they don't even know what it looks like. And so that's what we have to do. We have to paint the picture of what the other side looks like.
For sure. And I think that, a lot of the things that are out there spiritually are all about doing the work, doing the inner healing. And I think it can be easy to get yourself stuck in a pattern of consistently doing, like, we're always doing the inner work. We're always picking on something for healing. And it's hard to decide, when are you healed from this and can actually just focus on the 3D.
I think the question isn't, do we do this or that? It's how do we balance doing both, right?
Yeah.
Because you do have to do both. Because if you go back and forth, you're going to be constantly hitting roadblocks one way or another. Roadblock, doing too much work, you don't get enough business, you run out of money, you're stuck. Now you got to run like a mad person, you burn yourself out, go like crazy, and then all your crap shows up, and now you're back over here, and you're just doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth thing, right? You don't want to have to do that. The goal is to be able to do both in a healthy way.
Right.
Yeah.
To recognize, like, maybe we don't need to be finished
Right.
to start something else.
Yes.
You can kind of balance both and be able to continue with wherever you are in your spiritual growth, while still growing a business and working on something outside of that.
I'll give you a good criteria for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want is, you want to be in a position where whatever a client says to you is not going to trigger you so badly that you can no longer be present with them, right? We all get triggered. Shit happens, right? It's fine. But you need to be at a point where you don't go blackout, and, oh, I can't be present, and, oh, I'm all in my crap, I can't hear anything they're saying because all my stuff's up in my face, right? You can't be in that state if you're going to work with a client.
Yeah.
If you're going to do stuff before then, and you can, if you're going to do stuff before then, what you need to do is like online courses where you're not actually in active communication with somebody in real life, real time, right? If you can do email communication to answer questions, or online texting to answer questions, or whatever, you have the distance if something triggers you to walk away and take a break and then come back, right? So that's fine. That's safe. Right? The whole point is, you need to provide a safe container for the people that you're working with.
Right.
Okay. But it's not to put yourself in a position where you can't do anything until you're totally healed, which will be, 40 lifetimes from now. Right. So, let's not do that. Right.
Right.
So there's lots of different ways. I talked to somebody the other day. She had a consultation with me, and she wasn't quite ready to do anything. She was a massage therapist, but she was like, I want to do healing. I'm like, okay, do you know how to do it? She said, no, I don't know how to do it yet. And I'm like, okay, but you want to do it? She's like, yeah. I said, okay. And, I'm like, okay, let's build towards it then. Right. So what I suggested was that she start building a newsletter list, and just all she has to do is research different things, which she loved to do anyway. She was going down rabbit holes and researching stuff all the time. I'm like, great, just write some articles about it and just go out and get people on your newsletter list. And then that way you have a list that you've built, so that the minute you launch your business, you've got people who are already following you who want to talk to you. And in the meantime, once you get up and running and you've got people coming in the door and you've got that down, then you can go out and get join affiliate programs and market other people's programs and make money on those until you can build your own, right? And now it's a sustainable business for you that you can do part-time on the side without it being too difficult. And that way you have a jump start when you're ready to launch whatever it is that you decide you want to do.
Yeah. And probably somewhere along the way, the path unfolds, right?
Yes. It always does.
Taking some steps probably leads to other steps and makes things feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
What do you feel like are some of the, like, what are the most common things that you come across just in general working with people, especially in the spiritual community, when they're wanting to start a business but feel like something's in the way?
So I'll be honest, I don't get a lot of the people who haven't started yet. I usually get the people who started and fell on their face.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what's going on with the people who haven't gotten started yet, usually. And it's one of several things. Oftentimes it's a visibility issue. It's I don't want to get killed for my gifts again, right? So that's one of them. That shows up with the people who fell on their face too, who didn't want to market. The marketing piece is also a misconception around what a marketer is and does. People think they're awful, horrible people. And or at least spiritual people tend to think that. And they're like, oh, I don't want to be promoting myself. They feel so egoistic. It's like, well, but you can't hide your light under a bushel. You gotta actually let your light out. Nobody can find you. All these people need you. You're here to serve them and you're hiding. So, you can't be hiding. You can't be hiding, right? And, the challenge here is that you have to be willing to be seen, which a lot of people in the spiritual world come out of environments where it was not safe to be noticed. And so that's an issue. And then there are issues around value. It's like, oh, but it's just what I do. It's like, yeah, but it's not just because you can do it and it's easy for you doesn't mean it's easy for everybody and that everybody can do it. It's not, right? They can't. The other problem that's more specific to this field is that in the morphic field of spirituality, there is an energy of poverty. And it's from all the monks and the nuns and the people who gave up their, vows of poverty and chastity, right? It's just all of that. And it's all gunking up the energy field of that. And so we have to work around that too, because there are also people out there who are like, well, if it's a spiritual gift, you should give it away for free. And I'm like, okay, well, you want to come do what you do for a living for free for me? Because I'd be happy to make an exchange that way. Now, I don't know why, because God gave me this gift instead of gave you that gift, I need to do it for free and you don't. That doesn't make sense to me, right?
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because I actually had like a hit and a message that came through a channel that came through the other day where it was very much like, it's okay to want the money and to want the exposure and to want all of that. Like more people with good, like spiritual intentions, getting the visibility, being out there, being influential would be better for everybody.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to add to that.
Yeah.
Because I am passionate about this. Okay.
Yeah.
We need money. Okay. We need money. And I don't mean just the money we need. I mean, we need lots of money. Why? Because money is power, especially in the US. Money is power. And the spiritual world needs more power in the US. All you have to do is look around to realize that that's true. That's a no-brainer, right? And we need to be in power positions. We need to be in places and in rooms where powerful people are, and we need to be speaking the message of oneness into those spaces. And we only get there by having money and getting the exposure and getting known and all of the things that are necessary in order to be able to put yourself in a place where you have the ability to influence people of influence, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, cut this stuff out about, oh, I only need X amount and want the $1 million a year if that's what you want, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I live in Panama. It's very inexpensive to live here, but I'm like, yeah, 500,000 a year would work for me. And that would be like hugely, wildly abundant in my world. 500,000. Why? Because it would be wildly abundant. It gives me plenty of money to put in the bank, plenty of money to pay all my bills, take care of everything, and do anything I want, and donate to all the charities I want to donate to, and provide political support to the political forces that I want to provide it to, because Lord knows everybody else is doing it. We need to balance the scales. Right?
Yeah. And that was very much like the channeling that came through for me, is more people with this set of ideals that actually have the power and influence to be seen and shake things up, as we kind of tend to have this a negative viewpoint that, you know, the celebrity status or being, you know, too overexposed, it's inhumble. Along with poverty kind of comes like a humility piece too.
Okay, so I'm going to say this.
Mhm.
Can you tell I'm passionate? Okay.
No, so am I.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So here's the thing. I don't know if you have ever saw anything by Wayne Dyer, but that man was one of the most humble people I've ever seen in my life, right?
Mhm.
Massively influential, massively seen. Just because you are well known, well seen, that you're popular, that you're a celebrity doesn't mean you're not humble, okay? What we're actually doing is weaponizing victimness. Being poor is being a victim of money. And if you are trying to teach from a place where you are a victim of money, you are teaching victimhood at some level, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so it is your responsibility to transcend that in order to be able to free up the energy needed to teach anything you're teaching.
And I'm really kind of blown away by it. I was just looking up tickets to Eckhart Tolle the other day, who's coming through town where I am. And the comments section under the post was all like, in such a time as this, when everybody needs to hear it so much, I'm surprised he's charging this much. And why can't he just like, I was like, wow. You know,
Yeah.
that's a victim mindset and poverty mindset wrapped up into one. I was like, you don't think it's worth it to put some money out to pay the man?
Yeah.
Energetically blocks around money for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're just arguing for their victimhood. So I want you guys to listen very closely to this, because you're going to have this experience at some point. And I need you to understand that it's not about you. Okay? It's not about him. It's not about his pricing. It's not about anything. They're looking for excuses so that they don't have to grow. If they go, they will grow. If they find an excuse to be upset, they don't have to go, therefore they don't have to grow. And it's not about him or whatever price it is. It wouldn't matter what price it was. They would find a reason to complain about it because they're not ready.
Not only that, but there's so many other ways that it can happen if you release that and you really want to do it. Because I mean, I wanted to go on an Abraham Hicks cruise to Hawaii, and that's massively more expensive than an Eckhart Tolle ticket. But because it was kind of a pure intention and I put it out there to the universe, there was a way to go. Like, believe me, upstairs sees all the pathways to the things that you really want to do and unfold. And I got to go do that, and I didn't have any money or a dime to my name. Right. So there's a way to get the thing. There's a way to do the things you want to do. It's really interesting. So talk to me a little bit about how to narrow the focus for individuals, because I know that there's a lot, and myself included. I jumped on here on YouTube just to have chats with people and put messages out there. But the whole marketing side of things and how to get things out there and how to narrow the focus, it all does seem like a sort of a wandering through the woods, a little bit lost. How do we begin to start to sort out narrowing the focus for ourselves?
So that's a big question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hard one to give a singular answer to. You know, the short answer is you should be doing who you are, right? So the clearest focus is who are you, and who were you 5 years ago? Because the person you are today is the leader, the guide for the person you were 5 years ago. And so if you look at your transformation and look at your journey, that's probably a great place to start. You have a built-in success story, right? It's you, right? So even before you get started, you are your own success story.
That makes sense.
Yeah. You know, you have to know what you are likely to do as a person, right? What I'm willing to do is sit down in front of the computer and create content and put stuff out and follow up with people, take sales calls, do my coaching calls, do my, answer questions, because I get a lot of questions. And, that's what I love to do. I'm happy to do that. I love to do live speaking engagements. If somebody needs a live speaking engagement and wants me to come out, I'm happy to do that. I just don't love pitching speaking engagements. Right? Yeah. Last one I did was at Soul Treat in 2021, got a standing ovation. Enjoyed it. Loved it. Lots of fun. Yeah, but it's just the grind to get them is not my happy place. So
Do you
you
think
don't see me out doing it.
that's sort of a part of the disconnect with the spiritual community and business is not having sort of idealistic hopes about what something will be like, and then the reality of actually doing it is not what people were like anticipating or wanting to get into?
I think that's entrepreneurship in general.
Yeah.
Because before I started training spiritual teachers, I was training real estate agents, and I think a lot of it when you have new entrepreneurs, and especially I think it's especially difficult for people who are coming out of corporate America who have had high-paying jobs. Then when they come into the entrepreneurship world, it is a rude awakening. Because I mean, and it's especially hard for people who were in high-paying marketing jobs in corporate America, because it's a whole nother thing when you're spending your own money on ads, let me tell you. And you don't have that $1,000 every time you want to test something available when you're getting started, right?
Yeah.
So this is the sort of thing that you've got to wrap your head around as you're starting to make the transition, right? So a book is not, let me just say this, a book is not a marketing plan. A book is not a business model. A book is a calling card for whatever business model you want to do. It's a proof of expertise for whatever business model you want to do. So, and it should lead into whatever service you're going to sell. It shouldn't be standalone. So if you read my book, I have a book called The Overachiever's Guide to Spiritual Awakening. You read that book, it leads into my Welcome to the Woo program, because it's a description of how spiritual awakening works, how the spiritual evolution process works, what are the pitfalls, what are the wounds that you've got to clear, all of that stuff. But it then says, okay, great. Now you understand what the concept is and sort of how it's structured. Let's get you started on actually doing it. Bang, come to the program, right?
Yeah.
So that's the differential.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. I kind of get the feeling, even just like kind of sitting here talking about it, like, I guess I feel like the question I want to ask is, how do you go through all of these steps and go through all of those things and get to the other side, and do all of it, but still maintain a sense of the joy and purpose and the reason why you're doing it without getting lost in the details that feel overwhelming or unaligned and all of that?
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to say is that you will be overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed yesterday, a little bit today. So, but here's the thing, we switched back end office systems last year, and I had assistants working, doing that work up until December, when I realized that one of them was lying grossly on his hours. And I was like, okay, you got to go. And so I was like, okay, so I didn't hire a new assistant, which means that I had to learn the new system. So all I wanted to do was put together a forum yesterday. And day before yesterday, it took me a day and a half to put together a forum to figure out how to do it, and to make it integrate and make it answer into the system and send out the notifications I wanted and do all the pieces and parts. And I was just like, oh my God, right. And so, I was overwhelmed. And so what happens when you're overwhelmed is your inner child is in the driver's seat. And they're driving the bus, and they're 5 years old, and they can't even see over the dash, but they're going, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. They can't reach the pedals, but I can do it. I'm going to figure it out. It's okay. You got to take them out of the driver's seat, send them into the back, say, good job. And then sit back down as the adult and be like, okay, I can do this, right? There's a difference between I can do it and I got this, right? It's like, I will figure it out, and it's fine. In terms of staying in alignment, there are going to be days that you're tired. There are going to be days that you're going to do things you don't like doing. That's just the nature of business. If you don't do those things, you don't have a business. So, the goal, and here's where I have sucked at it. I'm going to say that very clearly. Here's the piece that I sucked at the hardest, is that I am an agent of change, right? I am the transformation event horizon. And therefore, I have to struggle all the time to not have constant change in my business, because when you are constantly changing your messaging, when you're constantly changing your focus, when you're constantly changing your offers, nobody knows what you do, and they can't buy and they can't refer because you're not solid, and therefore they don't want to buy, right?
Yeah.
When you get solid, when you commit, I don't care how boring it is, you got to do the thing, right? Do the thing. And, this is the thing that happens to entrepreneurs across all industries, is they'll be like, oh, well, I've had this ad for a long time and I'm bored of it, so I want to change it. I'm like, Did it stop producing? No. Then don't touch it, right? Like, do not touch the thing that is working, right? Do not break that which is not broken. And so, that's the sort of thing. I mean, I've offered the same lead magnet for 8 years now. You think I'm tired of talking about it? I am tired of talking about it. Do I think it's still valuable? It's absolutely super valuable, and it's super popular. And so, I offer it because
that's a really
works,
good
right?
It's a really good thing to point out, because I think all creatives and spirituality is certainly like a very big branch of that. Get to the play. It's like the band that gets tired of playing the same song that was their big hit that everybody wants to hear. It doesn't feel like it's new or exciting, but it's what everyone wants to hear.
And it's what everybody needs to have, right? So my lead magnet is boundaries for empaths. It's about how do you manage your energy field, right? And as an empath, it's super valuable, super important. And I've been talking about it for 8 years, It's like, I still believe it's super valuable and super important. And if the words never came out of my mouth again, I would not be unhappy about that. But it's important, and it's a great lead magnet. It brings people in the door, and it provides great value. So there's really no reason to change it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about.
And I feel like I'm glad you brought up your analogy about having the inner child in the driver's seat, because it makes me feel like, a lot of the spiritual work and a lot of spiritual stuff that's out there is like, hey, you need to tap into your inner child. You need to have some fun. You need to feel, at play with this. Like, it's something you hear a lot out there in spiritual fields. And we sort of downplay or, I don't know, throw shade on our adult ego personalities, our regular waking selves. But you're right, the feeling of overwhelmment or the feeling of I don't want to, that is all very childish.
So a friend of mine asked me to do a show with her recently. I'm a singer too. And I was supposed to be doing some editing of the audios, and I just couldn't get myself to do it. I was just like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Which is not like me. I'm usually like, no, get it done, get it out of the way, get it off my list, right? And I finally was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and do it. And then I didn't have access to the Google Drive where she sent me all the audios. And I was like, oh, I need to ask for this. And then she came back a couple of hours later with the link. And before I got a chance to do it, she's like, did you hear what this person said? And I'm not really excited. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, do you want to not do this? And she said, yeah, I don't want to do it. And I was like, oh, that's why I didn't want to do it. It's because it was going to be a complete waste of my time. Right.
Yeah.
It's because energetically I could feel that it wasn't going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's what's going on, is that there's a difference between there's no energy for this, right? And that's literally, I want to do it, but I have no energy to do it. And then that's don't do it, because it's not likely to actually come to fruition, and there's no reason to do it. Or you need new information that's going to completely change the way you do it. And that information isn't here yet, right? So when there's no energy for something, you leave that. But when you have this resistance, right? When that energy shows up, that's the stuff that's your avoidance. You have to power through and just do it. And there's a third piece in there that I need to add in too, which is there's that comes out of, I don't want to figure it out. It's too hard. Right, that energy, and then there's the, oh God, I'm just so exhausted, I can't do another freaking thing. Right, that's burnout. Okay, you cannot create from burnout and expect to be successful. Okay, so there's several pieces, there's several mindsets that I want to share. I'm like on fire with this conversation. You're so good at this. I can't tell you how many interviews I do, and I'm never on fire like this. Okay, so I just gotta tell you this. You're very good at what you do. And so I want to talk about the mindsets, because the mindsets are so crucial, right? So there is this sense in the spiritual community that when they're putting stuff together, they're waiting for the little stamp of approval on their forehead from the universe saying, yes, this is where you're supposed to go, right? And the problem with that is that it's completely abdicating your power to the universe. And the universe is not your parent, it's your partner. And so you have to look at the universe and say, this is what I'm doing, and this is how it's going to work. And this is your part. Please go do it. Because our job is the destination and the motivation. Universe's job is the navigation, right? So you set the intention, you hold the vision, you get very clear about it, and then you look at the universe and say, okay, where do I go? And then you have to wait. And this is the part where most people suck. Okay. You have to wait, and it's months. Okay. It is not days, it is months for all the messages to come through because you're not getting them all. So I don't know if you ever watched The Good Place. One of my
I think I watched the first season of it.
Okay. So one of my favorite scenes is where Michael is sending messages to the humans back on Earth. And they're going, we got the message. We got the message. And they're like, oh, we got 4 messages. And they come back to him and they're like, oh, we got your messages, Michael. He's like, great. They were like, yeah, these 4 were amazing messages. He's like, I said 1,240, but okay. Right? And that's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it takes us a while to pick up on all of them. And the other challenge is that when the message comes in, don't lock it in. Okay? Because the message that comes in today is going to be bolstered and expanded by the message that comes in next week, and the message that comes in next month, and the message that comes in the month after that. And if you lock it in today, you will not be available for the other messages that come that tell you how to tweak it and position it, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to pay attention to what's going on with you internally too, right? So if you're sitting there without a mission and you don't know your mission on the planet and you're just like, oh, well, I'm just kind of depressed because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing and I feel like I'm just drifting out here and I don't know. Pick a mission, okay? Just pick something that you would be excited to do and then the universe will help you adjust for that, right? But I can tell you with absolute certainty that when you lock in properly and you are acting in trust in the universe, and this is the other piece, trust in the universe and trust in yourself are 2 sides of the same coin. When you break your promises to yourself, when you don't treat yourself with respect, when you don't put yourself at the top of your own priority list, the universe will treat you the same way. And so when you learn how to properly take care of you, the universe will properly take care of you. You know, it's going to take care of you in the interim. You know, it's not going to leave you homeless and all this other stuff, but you got to learn how to take care of you, right? And that means not being reckless with yourself. And so when you properly can trust yourself, you can properly trust the universe. And when you trust the universe just delivers, right? It's like, don't look at the facts, just know what's true. And this is the piece, right? You have to be an active participant in it. You cannot just go, take care of me. And that's the motivation piece. You have to be taking steps in the direction. You have to be in ownership of the outcome. And that means I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to let the universe... You ever see those spy movies like Mission Impossible where the guy's got the earbud in and the guy's watching on the cameras with the security cameras and saying, okay, turn right now, go left here, right? That's you in the universe, right? The guy is still in there. He's still doing the thing, but he's getting the messages from the universe saying, turn right, turn left, do this, do that.
There's a lot about, again, a lot of talk out in spiritual communities about surrender and trust. Like you hear that type of stuff all of the time too. But I like that you brought up there's a difference between like surrendering the details, surrendering how things are going to unfold, and not surrendering your free will or surrendering your passion or drive to do something. We're not just going to float and wait for waves to wash us around. Yeah. Like we kind of have to be swimming in a direction.
Yeah, I totally agree. The thing about surrender and the thing that's so hard is that it's about letting go of control. What you have to recognize is that control is a safety mechanism. It is something we use to try and keep ourselves safe. And so when we're trying to control things, we're feeling unsafe in some way. When we're in alignment with the universe, when we're in full connection and trust in the universe, we trust that wherever we are is exactly where we're supposed to be. Okay. I just saw, who was it? Jamie Lee Curtis. I just saw something she did at the SAG Awards where she said that she was a Nepo baby who got put into Petticoat Junction on TV, and that's how she got the job, and she got fired a year later, and she was so upset and bereft, and she's like, oh my god, da 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 da. But had she not been fired, she would not have been available to audition for Halloween, which made her entire career, right? And so, sometimes there's a spiritual eviction that happens, that the universe throws you out of where you're at because you're not supposed to be there so that you can be ready for something else, right? And that's what happens when you're in the wrong place. You will get spiritually evicted. But if you're attached to, but this is what I wanted, and you don't have that perspective shift, then you're going to feel really bad about the eviction. But you'll find later that it puts you where you're supposed to be, right?
Yeah. I've been evicted from a lot of different places, a lot of different, especially groups of people. And over time, I've kind of, there was a lot of like rejection feelings, or why am I not good enough to do these things? But over time, I realized it was more like exciting, because if I'm not supposed to be here, that means there's something else. So what is it that's coming in?
Yeah.
That's not this, because obviously this wasn't fitting. So
yeah. And if you're on a shamanic path, there's always a shunning that happens. Mm-hmm. So, my big shunning came when I was in high school. But, when you're on a shamanic path, there's always a shunning, because you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and not have and not edit what you're going to say for the sake of staying in connection with the people that you're going to say it to. Right? You have to be able to be a clear message, a clear channel for spirit, right? Yeah.
It's a part of a speaker's journey. Yeah. What have you learned and been able to apply for yourself through working with others? Which part of the work feels like has been the most influential for you?
So the most influential piece of advice I ever got was from Taki Moore, who's a coach. And he said, make one offer to one target market using one lead magnet in one platform for 1 year. And that, when I took that advice, my business just exploded. I was finally able to get traction, because I wasn't throwing down a class here and throwing another class down 2 weeks later and another class down 2 weeks later. And they weren't all, they were all over the place, whatever. And I'm like, oh, I could do anything for anybody, blah, blah, blah. When I had to commit, it was very good for me. And I highly recommend that. The most fulfilling thing for me has been working with, I literally just had a conversation yesterday with one of the coaches that I worked with last year, for the last year, and she's up and running and converting $25,000 coaching packages, and she's just tickled pink. So I'm thrilled to be putting people in a position where they are abundant, because abundance breeds abundance, right? And so, this is the model that I work with.
Yeah. But it is, I totally feel that. So empowering and satisfying to be able to see when somebody does the work. It's so powerfully transformational. Yeah. To be able to see the fruits, not just for yourself, but to see it from other people. Yeah. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Do you want to take a moment and let people know where they can find you, what services you provide, shout yourself out? We'll put all the links in the description so they're easy to follow. But
awesome. Yes. You can find me at kellesparta.com, spelled K-E-L-L-E. And I work with the 100,000. So there are 100,000 people on the planet right now who are here to up-level it. And my job is to help them help the people they're meant to do the work with. And so I work with people on optimizing their spiritual growth, optimizing their personal growth, optimizing their business plans and their business models, and getting that out and getting that profitable. And so I work on a variety of different levels. I teach people higher end spiritual gifts, well, basic all the way up to higher end spiritual gifts. And then, during the personal growth work, how do you coach effectively as a spiritual coach? I've got I literally have 175 programs in the back end of my system. Some of them are a year long. Okay. So when I say I have a lot of stuff to offer, I have a lot of stuff to offer. My most popular program right now is my apprenticeship program, which is, you pay one fee, you work with me for the whole year. We're working one-on-one, and I'm helping you get whatever you need to get done. And so that's I love working at that level, because then I just get to have conversations, and it's almost like I'm a business partner, right?
Yeah. And I love that it's helping people build not only the personal value for themselves out of their purpose, but teaching that how to be influential to others and put the messages out there, how to practically help people move into a higher vibration for humanity at large.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's such important work.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I have a podcast as well called Spirit Sherpa and a channel here on YouTube as well. So both of those are also available. Those are free. So you can try them out, get to know me if you haven't gotten to know me in this conversation, which I kind of think you have, but you know. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. And I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. All of Kelle's links will be in the description, so you can go check her out. I know I'm going to. And we will see you guys next time on Spirituality.